Hello and good evening to you all. It's Sunday the 7th of April. Welcome to the Sim Shack and to me, Sim UK. I'm going to take a little look at fishing North Atlantic, a game that I haven't played for an incredibly long time. But I've now been able to configure it so that I can use controllers properly without having to use third-party software to make it work. So I thought I'd do a little bit of fishing, and if anyone's interested, we'll have a little chat about what must-have features we want to see in the Ships at Sea game that's about to release next month. Or was it this month? I forget. In the next couple of months, at least. So, I've got a long history with this game. Not all of it good. Before they released Fishing North Atlantic, the developers, or the community leader, I don't know who she was to be fair, sent me an email saying, "We've learnt from our mistakes." Because what they did in Fishing Barents Sea was they listened to all the arcade players who didn't like how difficult the ocean was, or how difficult it was to catch fish. So they made everything easier and just basically destroyed all the simulation elements that was in the game. One of the things they promised they were going to do was add wheel support and controller support and stuff, and arguably it's here. I mean, it is here, but unless you've actually tried to use it, you don't know how screwed up it is. It's not really screwed up, it's just badly done. Everything works, it just doesn't work very well. So, hopefully you guys can see my controllers a little bit, on and off, when the setup allows it. But if you just look at the lighting, even in here, is very poor, very poor. And one of the first things I noticed about the trailer was that the switching over to the Unreal Engine meant that all of the shading and lighting and stuff was being handled by the game, by the Unreal Engine, and it looked a lot better. If for no other reason, then we're actually going to get effects on the windscreen, whereas in this game there are no effects on the windscreen at all. It doesn't matter if it's raining or you're in heavy seas or whatever, and I say that very loosely because there are no heavy seas in Fishing North Atlantic, which is just such a shame. And I think almost everyone who bought the game, even the arcade players who didn't like it when it was too hard, even they were disappointed that there was no sort of challenge in the ocean. So right at the very end of the trailer there is a 10-second snippet, maybe a 5-second snippet of a fishing ship going over a big ass wave. So I'm very much hoping that's going to be included. We don't want fictitious made up difficulties. We don't want it to be fake and unrealistic. What we want are the realistic dangers and downfalls of fishing in the North Atlantic to actually be present in the game. I mean, that doesn't seem like too much to ask for, in my mind. I mean, it's hard to do, don't get me wrong, but Fishing Barents Sea had tidal waves. I remember one of my greatest, and I still maintain this was their biggest mistake, but one of my greatest memories of that game, Fishing Barents Sea, was that I took Grandad's boat, that little tiny boat that you could go out and catch like 100 fish in or whatever, doing a bit of line fishing. I remember I was running out of fuel, I was fully laden, so the boat was heavy, and the tide was going out. And I had to manage the use of my engine whilst rolling with the waves in order to get back to shore before running out of fuel. And that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, really fantastic. I so enjoyed doing that. That was by far my favourite experience of all. Now we're struggling to get in. This is so cool, man. Honestly, this is such a great bit of game. I'm going to bring this back up so I can keep an eye on my knots. We're desperately low on fuel and struggling, really struggling to keep moving forwards. And it wasn't long after that that they completely did away with tidal waves close to shore, which just ruined it for me. And then they started nullifying all the waves and stuff. So this is a classic example of what they've done well, but I fear that they've done it without really knowing how they've done it. This is something that you used to be able to do in Farming Simulator. So I can look up and down using the hat switch on the joystick whilst I'm in binocular mode, but I can also come out of binocular mode and look left, right, up and down using exactly the same keybinds. And then if I bring up the searchlight and you look outside, you can see that I can now control the searchlight left, right, up and down, again using exactly the same controller. So that's one input doing 3 different jobs, and that is what you want, because otherwise you're going to have 10,000 buttons trying to make everything work. You hope they learnt their lessons from the feedback in the last 2 games. I really hope they do. And I gave them plenty of feedback, I mean loads. And they promised me before the game came out that they had learnt their lesson. And then when Fishing North Atlantic came out and there were no waves, I mean look how flat this is. It's totally ridiculous. Although I like how dark it is, the lighting is horrific. I mean, it's really bad in this game. And in the Unreal Engine, that is one thing at least that should be better. Even if they just stick to the default lighting option that comes with Unreal Engine, that would be a significant improvement over this. But we've seen, or I've seen in the trailer, numerous very exciting things. Water and wind and weather conditions affecting what you can see out of the window. Windscreen wipers, something we've all asked for 1,000,000 times and never got. The ability, of course, to get off the boat and walk around. That's a huge plus. I never expected that to be an option, if I'm being totally honest. If I had a list of 100 things, it would probably be in that list, but it would be very low down. The removal of the waves and weather in a ship game was not the best idea. No, it really wasn't. Fishing Barents Sea started out brilliant, and then they sort of, you know, as Merlin says, took out the wind and the waves and the bad weather because people were complaining about bad weather in a North Atlantic fishing simulator, or even a Barents Sea fishing simulator. I mean, what on earth do they know about fishing? As you know what I'm like. When I get keys to games, I review them honestly. And I reviewed Fishing Barents Sea and Fishing North Atlantic very honestly. And that means highlighting all the issues. And I didn't hold back. And I did say I would never play or review another one of their games. But, and this is key, all this stuff that's working here now, the joystick, I'm using Honeycomb, Bravo throttle quadrant and Alpha yoke. And it doesn't matter what controller system I use, it works in this game. It does detect and run almost everything. There are a few buttons that don't work, and I don't know why they don't work, but they don't. But it pretty much detects and runs every single device. So that's something they promised me before the game even released they were going to do. And after I said I'm never playing or reviewing another one of their games, I came back to it after 6 months just out of curiosity and discovered that they had finally added wheel support and controller support. So I was like, okay, so rather than barefaced lying to me, they were absolutely useless at communicating with me. Bearing in mind that some of my videos have got tens of thousands of views for this game, and hundreds, maybe thousands of people probably bought this game off the back of one of my videos, or have benefited from one of my videos. Yeah, a lot of the people who complain just want it easy so that they can succeed. If they don't succeed, they get bored. 100% agree with you. That is, unfortunately, that is what I think we are producing. We are producing children with incredibly short attention spans. They don't feel like they ever have to work hard for anything. Everything should be made available to them immediately, on a plate, no questions asked. It just seems, and I don't know how it is that they have the loudest voice, but it's not the first time a simulator has listened to arcade players and taken their recommendations over the simulation community, who on the most part, I would say, are quite patient and quite respectful, and as long as we're kept in the loop, I think we're pretty fair and understanding. Hey Nurgle, yeah, you're going to get banned, I think, probably by the end of this stream. I didn't get banned from Discord at all. I don't know where you got that idea from. This is, I mean, the term simulator became, I think, I blame Farm Sim a lot for this, I think. I remember distinctly, right, there was this interview that Giants did, okay? I'll never forget this. This German guy, and I forget now whether he was speaking English or speaking German and it was translated, so it may have been lost in translation. But he said, and I quote, "We could make Farm Sim 19 or 22, whichever one he was talking about, the most realistic game you have ever seen, but then nobody would want to play it." And I just thought, what flipping planet do you live on? Because 99.9% of the mods that I see, especially the most popular mods, are mods that make the game more realistic and fill in the gaps that Giants have, you know, not bothered to do themselves. And in fact, even when Farm Sim 22 came out, all they really did was pinch some of the best mods that the modding community have been working on producing for a long time, and you know, just claimed them as their own. If V-Step wanted, they could add fishing to Nautilus and they could kill off ships at sea if they make it like this one. They absolutely could do that, Merlin. 100% agree with you there. But in order to make that work, they're probably going to need 2 years, maybe longer, to do that. So I'm hoping that the whole physics system has been dramatically improved. I can't know this until I get my hands on the game. It does look awesome, I agree. And I'm sure Mel probably likes the oh, I know what Mel likes. I remember you saying not only the fact that you can get out of the boat and walk around, but you can actually take the boat out of the water and clean it. Yeah, that is, again, if I had a list of 100 things, that probably wouldn't be on there, but it should be, because cleaning the hull of a boat is something you have to do every, I don't know, depending on how well you look after it, every 6 months or every 2 years or something. It's definitely a factor that every ship has to take into account. That's another thing I'd like to see in the game, which I don't think is in the game, but we have crew. It would be nice if very, 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 very rarely a member of crew got sick, or a member of crew who was a rookie and hadn't been out to sea before got seasick and couldn't then perform their jobs, or even, you know, seriously injured. And then you've got to make the decision: do we go back to port? Do we, you know, just press on and hope he doesn't die? I mean, I'm really pushing the limits of what you would expect to see in a sim by saying things like that. But when they've already included the ability to take boats out of the water and to clean the hull and repair elements on the boat, I mean, wow, that's really exciting stuff. I can't see a bloody thing out here. One thing we haven't got in this game, unless there's a way of changing the... I can't remember now, it's been such a long time since I played. Does this game have radar? If it doesn't have radar, then radar is definitely something we need. Because in weather conditions like this, you would be reliant on radar. And fog. Fog is another thing we never saw. They did bring in second-hand trucks. And for a minute there, I was like, oh, brilliant. I've always wanted to see second-hand trucks in ETS. You know, maybe the indicators are broken and you've got to get them repaired, or maybe the engine overheats if you drive at high revs for too long. I thought, yeah, this is fantastic. This is really going to add to the realism. But I don't know if your experience is different to mine, but the amount of times I've tried to buy a second-hand truck in ATS or ETS, and there just aren't any. The only ones you can buy are the brand new ones. I mean, how the hell did they screw that up so bad? I think there was some sort of licensing issue, wasn't there? So maybe you have to download damaged trucks or something. I don't know how. I don't know what's going on there, but bit of a disappointment. There's no radar. Okay. I couldn't remember if there was, so thank you for confirming. That's something I'd like to see in Fishing Barents Sea, actually. I think that's something that people came up with before. Like, one of the requests that they really wanted was the ability to own more than one boat and then hire crew to take your other boats out. I mean, that would be fantastic. And the economy in Fishing Barents Sea and fishing North Atlantic, it's way too easy to get money, I think. Way too easy. And you've got to have some days, like if you've ever watched these fishing programs, they go out, they fish for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, and they catch nothing at all. And then they've somehow got to factor in paying the crew, getting the fuel, getting new bait, fixing the pots, repairing any damage that's on the boat. You know, it becomes a real multifaceted challenge, and that's exciting. I like that. That's what I want to see. I don't understand why you can't have a toggle button that says realistic arcade mode. Everyone's happy then, and then they don't have to fix anything in the arcade mode because it's all arcade, and you know, there is no challenge. It's not difficult at all, so anyone can make money and do whatever they want. But for the hardcore players who actually want, you know, a proper simulation experience, you know, that's got to be there. It's got to be implemented. Right, we're almost at point here. See, that things like that really impress me. Just adds to the realism, makes me feel like I'm really there, sort of thing. This guy's supposed to be prepping the bait, but I haven't started the process yet. Here's the chef. I mean, at this part of the game, you can't really fault it, can you? God. Which, if there's one thing you can say that they've done well, it's this. Look at that. Look at the sun coming up there. Just makes you feel wonderful. I don't know if you guys have ever been on a cruise, but for me, I always try and get up at least once or twice whilst I'm on a cruise and go and see the sunrise, because there's nothing quite like seeing the sun come up in the middle of the ocean. It's a totally different experience. It really is beautiful. Hey DJ, thoughts on the new game from the dev who made this one? Well, yes, that's what I'm asking. What would you like to see in the new game that wasn't in the first two, but you would desperately like to see added? We've come up with quite a few lists, but fundamentally we just want it to be more realistic. Things like, you know, if you go out in atrocious weather, and you take on too much water, then your boat's going to sink and you're probably going to drown. Things like that, you know. So that when a hefty storm is coming in, you have to make that decision. Is it safe to continue, or should we head back to shore now, even though we haven't got a full set? I mean, obviously there's a lot of things in the trailer that look better. The lighting looks better, the physics and the buoyancy looks better. The fact that we get excuse me, wind and water and weather effects on the window and windscreen wipers that we can use to sort of facilitate being able to see, that's all wonderful. The fact that you can get out of the boat and walk around and do things on the shore, the fact that you can take your boat out of the water and repair it and clean it and, you know, do all those kind of good things. These are all huge improvements to the game, hopefully, if they're done well and they work well. Yeah, what other things would you like to see? In fact, whilst I'm thinking about it, one of the other things I'd like to see done, because obviously if I look over here to my right, you can see we've got 2 throttle handles. So we have a left engine and a right engine, but unfortunately in the game we only have the ability to bind one axis for that. So what I'd love to have is the ability to have, you know, 2 engines independently controlled by a controller, and then you could get into a situation where one of your engines breaks down. So now you've just got to use your left engine or your right engine, and that's obviously going to put a lot of stress and strain on that engine. It's going to be more difficult to fight against the waves if you're in bad weather conditions, and when you get into shore, it's another cost that you have to factor in. You know, and it's an important cost, but you know, all of this is just kind of missing from the first one. It didn't matter what you did or when you did it. Everything just ended up resulting in making money. It just zero effort at all. This little boat is totally going to cut me up, isn't he? But yeah. Thank you so much for joining me on the stream today. It's the first time we've streamed off this PC, so a few little bugs and issues along the way were expected, but yeah, I think it ran pretty well overall. No significant issues. Thank you so much for watching, everyone who chatted and commented. It's always lovely to hear your thoughts, so thank you for that. And yeah, maybe we'll do some more fishing streams in the future. Thank you for your time. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Goodbye for now.